What's up, everybody? It's Tuesday. It's time for Bets Against the Spread. We don't have Matt LaMarca today. It's just me and Joe Holka breaking down a very weird, strange, and peculiar Week 17 slate. We made it, though. We made it all the way to Week 17. And for that, we get this Cardinals-Rams game with quarterbacks no one's ever heard of before. Joe, first off, congratulations, my friend. Diggs coming through for you again in a showdown slate. I feel like you might have a niche in this marketplace.
I guess, man, just play all the Stephon Diggs is pretty much what's been my miracle at some of my worst slates of the entire year have actually been the slates where Stephon Diggs just came to save me, right? So people don't like the victory laps though, Dieter. So yeah, it was a good night last night. Week 16 officially in the books. One more week left of the regular season. It is a weird one. We were just talking about it before this. Like we kind of researched these slates and trying to figure out some of the early like line movement, that sort of thing. Hashtag line movement. It's odd because there's some of this stuff just isn't that relevant, right? Like we could talk all we want about some of the LaMarca trends and that sort of thing, but like this is a week where you do kind of lean into the narratives a little bit more. I think like try and figure out which teams are motivated to actually play hard, which teams don't care, which teams are actually motivated or at least incentivized to not perform well in the draft. So we actually dropped a video yesterday, went through each team and kind of give an overview of which teams we should be kind of a little bit scared of in DFS, but also the betting markets. There's going to be a little bit more uncertainty than normal as well. So what's your overall feel on week 17? This seems like a tougher week to bet in general. I guess there should be, in theory, some situations if you could be early on some sort of news. It feels like more of a news-based slate than anything.
100%. Like this is a Kurtenbach slate if there ever was one. And week 16 has a lot of this too, where you're starting to see teams really check out. And we saw that in a couple of places. A lot of these games are culture games. So who do you trust as a head coach to have their team still going for it? And so much of this is relying on defense. I'm going to play a lot of overs this week if I play anything, just because defenses check out. That's a position, that's a unit where you're having to come with juice. You're having to come with energy. And man, it's really hard to decide to run headfirst into somebody if you don't want to be there. And there's going to be a couple of teams that will be going for draft position. But it's always interesting to see how disjointed those teams play, where it's like, hey man, we all know that we're trying to lay low, but some guys are like, I don't want some guy getting drafted and taking my spot. So how those defenses and offenses look, it's going to be a hot mess. And it only gets hotter when you take into account all these backup quarterbacks. And we'll get into some of them in just a little bit. Yeah. First game of the week though, is a game that has meaning, has value, at least for one of the teams. And I can imagine that the other one, the Buffalo Bills, are probably going to want to play spoiler here just because they can't get that one seed. The AFC is pretty much locked up. They have the home field advantage, at least for the first round. I think Buffalo is going to go for it. Miami is going to go for it because they have to win to get in. And right now, Buffalo is a 4.5-point favorite. That's come down a little bit, but really that's about where we thought it would end up being. 47.5-point total. You just watched Buffalo last night. They just helped you out in a big way. What do you think about them? And Miami, which is, I guess, going to start Tua, which I don't know, man. Biggest game for the Dolphins in a lot of years, and they're going back to Tua. That's bold.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping we might get some Fitzmagic in this game. I think it's one that like it has a lot of obviously merit for exactly what you've just been saying. Like the Bills could easily choose to rest their players coming off this short week. Yeah. Obviously, they can't get the number one seed, so I could see that. But that said, like I think one of the key points that you made is there's a ton of players out there. They're not just going to put out bad tape out there. You know what I mean? So they're still going to be playing hard. There's a lot of guys playing for contracts. There's some guys that might be out of the playoffs that are still working towards some incentives. That's stuff that we probably don't talk about enough. Like there's touchdown incentives, there's yardage incentives, there's games played incentives for a lot of these players, right? So I think that's important. This specific game, though, it's tough to see the Bills coming out and really just going all out with some of their top guys. But that said, there's something to be said for there's teams every year that are way ahead or they can't move. They take a week off. They come back to the playoffs and they're just not the same team, right? So I think it's important, especially for a team like the Bills, who has just been on an absolute roll. Like, I don't know if there's really been a better team in the NFL for the last few weeks. Like, they want to keep that momentum going, right? So I've talked about this the last couple weeks, or last couple years, I should say, for this slate. So when I was playing college hockey, we basically we went to the Frozen Four, but how that works is you actually have a week off in between the regional tournament and the Frozen Four. So we basically, I think we were a 14 seed and we took out a 2 seed and a 1 seed in our division. So we were feeling great, playing probably the best hockey we had the entire year. Take a week off, come back, give up 3 goals in the first 4 minutes in the Frozen Four, and then we lost 4-3, I think. So we basically never recovered from that. But there is something to be said for, like, if things are going really well, like, these guys want to keep playing, right? So I hope that for the Bills, they're a fun team to watch. But this one, I was hoping we'd get Fitzmagic. The Dolphins playing Tua in this spot was definitely a big surprise for me.
Well, and the thing with Buffalo is that they probably want to win on the basis of 2 games in Buffalo in the playoffs. They can't get that AFC Championship game in Buffalo. It just can't happen. But Pittsburgh could sneak up. We don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do. We'll talk about them in a bit. But man, like, if I'm the Bills, I'm thinking to myself, I'm one of the few teams in the NFL that has a home field advantage come playoff time. If the entire NFL playoffs are predicated on the fact that you got to bring your own juice, you got to bring your own energy, the last place on earth I want to be is Buffalo, New York, and down 14-0. And then I gotta find some energy. Say what you will about, like, being on the road. At least you're getting booed. At least, the crowd is into it for something. You got nothing. You got to summon it from within. And if I'm in Buffalo, it's really hard to do that. I just want to die most of the time when you're hanging outside in Buffalo. So if I'm the Bills, I'm thinking, man, this is a great home field advantage. And obviously, again, the Dolphins, they got to win. So going with Tua is fascinating, especially with how well Fitzmagic played. I mean, he won him the damn game with a hell of a throw. I'm not sure why you play cover 2 defense in that situation, but that's a different story for a different day. This one, do you have a stance? Would you put money down? Right now, 95% of the money line bets are on the Dolphins.
Right.
And it's early yet. We always say that on a Tuesday. Hey, man, it's too early. We'll see what happens. But it seems to me as if a lot of people are expecting Buffalo to maybe roll over. I'm thinking Buffalo's just going to be mean about it. I would probably rather be on the Buffalo side, and I think that the line actually speaks to that. How do you feel about it?
Yeah, I'm going to take the easy way out here and say this is kind of a stay away for me, because I think it makes sense in theory to just be on the Miami side, just because you should see some of these Bills guys at least. I mean, even if the game gets out of hand at one point, like, these starters are coming out. Like, I don't care what anyone says. So,
True.
So I think that would be my big concern. So if I had to pick one side, it probably would be with, I guess, the rest of the field, which is kind of scary with Miami. But I think it's at least intriguing to say that they want to keep things rolling. So maybe they run those guys out.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought. Which team is going to continue to scrap and claw? One of them ain't. If the Bills are down by 20 early, guess what? We're just going to take her easy. We've lost. And if they're up by 20 early, they're going to run the ball. Just run which they would normally do, but they're definitely not going to press the advantage, and the defense is going to get lax. Whereas the Dolphins, they got to scrap no matter what the score is. So that will be interesting to see. Maybe that's a reason to play the Dolphins, at least to cover. Who knows if they win, but they'll definitely fight for a back door for you. So something to think about there. Baltimore is an 11.5-point favorite going to Cincinnati. Hard to argue with a line like that. 44.5-point total. The Bengals absolutely killing me last week. I thought for sure that they would go and lose to the Texans. They did not. The Texans rolled over. Absolute disgraceful performance. And we heard from J.J. Watt after the game. Are you buying back into Baltimore? Are you feeling like Baltimore is a team to be reckoned with? This is another team that has to win to get in at the bottom of the AFC. You presume that they're going to win. Do they win by enough to, make it an easy fourth quarter for them?
Yeah, I think first off, we should give the Bengals a little bit of credit for how they've been playing these last couple of weeks. They look great against Pittsburgh. They've been playing hard. Obviously, not much to play for. No Joe Burrow, but it's nice to see teams like that. Like, there's a lot of fight in Cincinnati, and like these division matchups. Like, this is a nasty division with a lot of that kind of pride coming into this. But that said, I'm ready to jump in on the Ravens. I think that there's probably not a team out there that people don't want to face in the playoffs, like this Ravens team. Like, we see it all the time, right? So last year they come into the playoffs, their expectations are just sky high, and then they fail. This year, like, pretty similar team, and probably one of the teams that a lot of people were picking to win the Super Bowl. They kind of struggle out of the gates. Lamar just doesn't look kind of like he looked like last year, but now he's starting to kind of feel that mojo again. He's feeling good about himself. This team is feeling good about themselves. So I'd be pretty scared to face the Ravens in the wild card for sure. I think that they're going to be a team that sneaks in there. So I think that this spread is interesting. I'm looking at 13.5 right now. So that's pretty steep. But I think the Ravens are pretty, I guess, they're a team that deserves to get in the playoffs. So I think that they're one that I think they could just roll here.
Yeah, I think that they're going to come out guns blazing, and they'll be able to run the ball effectively
Mm.
against Cincinnati. I don't see that being much of an issue. That's what they want to do. If they're able to get, Andrews working over the middle, it should be pretty much game over. I do like the Bengals on the spread here, though. I feel like the Bengals are given too much fight at the end of this season to spot them 11.5, especially
Yeah.
against a team that, listen, it's a high powered offense, but it's an old school high powered offense
Mhm.
with the Ravens. Like I just don't expect them to throw for 400 yards and to open this bad boy up early and get it over with. Like I expect this to drag a little bit, and 11.5 in a game that can drag is a pretty good number to me. If for no other reason than Cincinnati just wants to be a dick about it. Like they've been really good about that.
Are we
Like
putting
that's
too
like,
much weight into how they played against Pittsburgh, though? Because Pittsburgh has just looked terrible. Like, I don't know.
No,
I'm trying to piece
I
together
think
that
that's
part of
fair.
it in my head. Yeah.
I get that. But the defense came with it. Like I understand why you could say like, hey man, Ben Roethlisberger totally sucked. It
Mhm.
was just a bottom out performance by him. Totally get it. But then Roethlisberger looked pretty good against the Colts. So it's hard for me not to say that Cincinnati's defense can get to that level. Will it? Probably not. I mean,
Mhm.
it just won't. But the way that they played against the Texans, I thought was more informative. Like, there's no reason for them to go hard. It's another bad team. I thought the Texans were just going to throw the ball all over them, and the Bengals just laid the wood early, and the Texans rolled over.
Mhm.
And listen, Baltimore can't do that. They can't roll over. They have to keep fighting. But I don't think that they have the offense to really push the envelope in this game. Like, this is a team that's built for the playoffs, but they're not built to open up an 11.5 point spread on
Right.
anybody unless Cincinnati wants to roll over. But again, I'm just not seeing it. So a lot of people betting the over on this one already. That doesn't surprise me, just because I think that we have to give the Bengals some props for no other reason than, hey man, Zach Taylor seems to have this team ready to fight, and they'll make things interesting, at least for a little bit. And I don't think they're going to just go away, especially with a backup quarterback too. Like Brandon Allen's trying to prove something. Like if Joe Burrow looks like he's coming back 100%, and we get some video out of Instagram and stuff from him, he looks like he's doing pretty good. But if he doesn't come back at the beginning of the season, man, that's a good spot for Brandon Allen.
I'm
So
with you.
let's talk about Atlanta and Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay has the 5 seed, but I don't think it's actually locked up yet. Atlanta obviously has nothing to play for. 7.5 point spread going down to a 6.5 point spread, 50 point total. I don't know. Atlanta, I don't want to read into whatever happened with Kansas City. Like I'm kind of out on Kansas City. I'm selling my Kansas City shares if I had any. Tampa has to win. They're looking really good. I think we're in agreement. We're just taking Tampa. We're taking the spread.
Yeah. I mean, it feels like these teams just played. So I just looked to see when that was. That was only 2 weeks ago, right?
They actually play 9 times a season.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. So they blew a 17-0 lead against the Bucks in that game just 2 weeks ago. So the Bucks have looked great. I think just in general, like they just played the Lions, I guess. So take that for what it's worth. But yeah, I'm more. I guess this entire year I've been kind of staying away from the Falcons just because I think they were a team that we knew was going to have a decent amount of volatility. But I think this Tampa Bay team is the real deal. Their defense is starting to get right as well. So I think that for a team that so they can move up. Is that the scenario here? Because I mean, if they've already clinched a wild card spot and can't win the division, does that mean that we'll see Bruce Arians sit some of these players? I guess that's my only concern on the Bucs side of this one.
Yeah, I don't think that they can move up. I think that they can hold the 5 or go lower. And they can't fall out.
So maybe this is one where it's all moot, right? Just because there might not be some of these starters.
If I'm Tampa, I'm trying to get as many home games as I can.
Sure.
And obviously it's very difficult to do that when you're not going to have a home game in the first round. But there have been situations in the past where, you get that 6 and 7 now with 7 teams in there that you can maybe see one. You can maybe see one in that divisional round. So I'm fighting for it. I'm going for it. And if nothing else, I want to keep that good momentum I had going against Detroit, going against a team that I should be able to beat. Now, will they go, full bore? Probably not. But I feel pretty good about Tampa here. I think that they've been able to click since their bye week.
Do you think it's priced in? That's always my question with these, because this is one that like people know that they can't really move, right? So there's a chance that there could be starters that are sitting. So like at this point of the week, like we're recording this on a Tuesday morning, do you think some of this is already priced in?
6.5 looks like a pretty good
Yeah.
price. I think if we were being honest, if we were saying what would be the general spread, I think I would have expected around 7.5, 8
Okay.
and a half.
Yeah.
So 6.5 already coming down is, I guess, the marketplace basically saying, hey man, there could be some wonkiness here.
Mm-hmm.
So it might fall down to 5.5. So maybe, get it at 6.5 while you can. So we'll see on that one. This is a game that really doesn't matter. Minnesota's out of it. Detroit is out of it. They're going to be playing Chase Daniel. So it matters to me as a Missouri grad. But other than that, Minnesota 6.5, 7.5. I mean, the lines are all over on this one from books across the country because no one knows what to think about this game. Any thoughts on Minnesota and Detroit in the rollover bowl of the NFC North?
My thoughts are that, yes, there are teams that have nothing to play for, and then there's the Detroit Lions that really don't care. There's a big difference there between having nothing to play for and a team that has just completely quit, right? So I still think that the Vikings offense, I think they're going to score some points here still. I know they don't have a ton of incentive to do so, but I think that there's still some people, like Mike Zimmer in particular, like he playing for his job at this point or coaching for his job? I would think so, man. Like there's some good players on this team. You think that they're going to keep rolling this out? I guess I'm in Minnesota, so I feel like the tension of this team being mediocre every single year. And
I totally get that.
Yeah. What do you?
He did just sign a massive contract extension. I don't think that Ziggy Wolf's willing to move off of big money real fast.
Well,
now, next
they're
year
clearly boys. I'm with you.
Next year he goes in and it's like, hey man, you better get this done. But I don't think he's coaching for his job in a Week 17 game against Detroit. That means nothing. Like it would have already been decided. But now, listen, he's on. It would be nice to show something. It'd be nice to get some momentum going for next year.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. And if it ends up being like a situation where they're coming out there and playing like their normal starters and all of that, like the Lions just can't match up with the skill players on the Vikings. I think that's probably what it comes down to. So where the line's at right now, I think I still want to be on the Vikings side, though. Again, like we could see like some Chad Beebe, like these younger players come in and just like, do you risk a guy like Adam Thielen or Dalvin Cook? I don't know. Justin Jefferson, probably in the Rookie of the Year race. He's probably not going to win it, but he's in the race for sure. You don't really see wide receivers win it very often, but he's been fantastic. So just, I guess, excited for Vikings fans in general in that way, just because you lose Stephon Diggs, he goes to, like, what would the disaster of all of that would have been if Stephon Diggs goes to Buffalo, like basically becomes a top 5 wide receiver, and they let him go. He didn't want to be here anyway, so I get that sort of it. But at least they can take some solace, and they drafted an absolute stud in Justin Jefferson. They're going to get him at a much lower contract. So it's one of those trades that in a roundabout way worked out for everyone. So that's nice to see.
It did, which is wild. I did not see that coming. I'm a big Diggs guy, and listen, there were a lot of good wide receivers in this draft. I didn't think that Jefferson was going to be this much better than everybody else. He's a step better than even Brandon Ayuk, who played really well this year. That says something.
Draft is really insane, though. Like imagine being the Green Bay Packers and just having the offense they have right now, and then just like waving these wide receivers. Like, could you imagine if like one of these guys would have landed on like the Packers right now? Like with what they're doing with like basically Devontae Adams, like it'd be an absolute joke.
I don't want to think about that because I'm fading the Packers hard in the playoffs. I don't like the total on this one, 54.5. I get that Detroit is basically saying, if you would like to score, please go ahead. But I don't know if Minnesota is necessarily going to be all that interested in doing that in this game. I think that this is going to be a nasty NFC North, 2 teams not going for it contest, and it could just be I have a hard time seeing either of these teams getting into the 30s. I think 20s are going to be pretty tough. So I'm taking the under on this one. I think this is the one spot that I do feel comfortable so far taking. Jets and Patriots. Jeez Louise. Are the Jets going to finish 3-0 on the year?
They're surging, man. Just the surging Jets team. Like we were all wrong. Adam Gase is just turning things around. These late season heroics from Adam Gase, going to buy himself another season. It's just the best possible outcome for the Jets, right? No, this is a disaster for the Jets, isn't it? Like they don't want to win any games right now. They want this coach out of there, and they want to get the number 1 overall pick. They pissed both of those away probably.
Unbelievable. Listen, I made good money on Jets money line last week, so I have a soft spot for the Jets in my heart right now. Okay. But this is a buck nasty game. It started off as a Patriots 10-point favorite. It says Cam Newton is going to start. I don't think Cam Newton's going to start. I think it's Jared Stidham. And that line dropped down a full tutty plus the extra point to now 3 points Patriots are favored by. It's a 41-point total. it's just buck nasty. This is just a buck nasty game. If you want to bet it, go ahead. Hey man, we're not gonna let you depart with your money if you want to. But geez Louise, if you're betting this one, you got it. You got a complex. Like the Jets are all sorts of twisted up. I don't understand what it is they're doing. Congratulations for them getting some momentum going for a new coach next year and not having, Lawrence as their quarterback. Like, congratulations. That's great. Sam Darnold playing for his this is just a hot mess. This is just too much of a hot mess for me to ever want to put money down on it. But again, if you're so interested, go ahead. Another hot mess is Pittsburgh and Cleveland. We don't know what Pittsburgh's going to do. They're like playing coy about if they're going to play their dudes or not. And I get why they might not do it because they're kind of locked in, but they're kind of not at the same time. Like if Buffalo loses, they're the 2 seed. So like you want to win if you're Pittsburgh, but I guess winning's hard for them these days. So they're not trying too hard at it. Cleveland definitely needs to win after losing to the Jets, if for no other reason than to cleanse the palate. The Browns are 7.5 point week 17 favorites over the Steelers, which is a very weird thing to say out loud, with a 43.5 point total. What are you thinking on this one, Joe?
So one of the things you said earlier, Dieter, that kind of stuck with me is that, yes, there's some uncertainty in some of these situations, but you can watch the line and at least see what the odds makers are expecting here, right? And they're clearly expecting Mike Tomlin to bench some of these starters, right? So, I mean, I know he hasn't said it yet. I get that. But this is one I think that I'll be kind of staying away from the Steelers side. Sure. I think that the line is surprisingly efficient for the efficiency, for the efficient for the efficiency. Yeah, it's always the efficient for the efficiency. No, for basically the uncertainty, I think it looks surprisingly efficient. So I could see the Browns winning this game, maybe not covering. I mean, they're going to be getting some wide receivers back, so they actually have a wide receiver on the team. Right. So that's positive. But yeah, I don't know. This one seems kind of gross to me. I don't really want to be on the Steelers in any way, shape, or form. Just with what I guess has been going on there. I guess slightly getting healthier. Like people want to talk about how this defense is getting run all over. So that kind of makes me want to buy low on the Steelers defense, who for most of the year was super elite. So I guess there's that. True. But this offense is not moving the ball very well. No. I don't know. I'm probably on the Browns here, but it doesn't feel great.
Yeah, I don't want to bet any Pittsburgh quarterback. It doesn't matter if it's Roethlisberger or Mason Rudolph, or I don't even think Josh Dobbs is on the team anymore. Like I don't want anything to do with those quarterbacks. Yeah. So the fact that you're asking me to put money down on them covering a touchdown and a half is like, that's too much for me. I think that the market is saying something. Unless you have inside information that the Steelers are going for it that nobody else has, which I don't and you don't. And I don't know anyone who does. I would venture to say that the 7.5 is a fair line for what we should expect, which is Pittsburgh to rest everybody in Cleveland to go real hard. To the what effect that matters as it pertains to 7.5 points to be determined later in the week. But I would imagine this line actually jumps up a little bit more once we get some certainty.
I think there's one more thing that we probably should have mentioned. Like this Steelers team, like with having some of those games postponed, like they haven't had any time off for like what feels like weeks, right? So I would be shocked if Tomlin doesn't decide to rest at least a few of his key players. Like it just doesn't make any sense to run those guys into the ground right now.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's a good call. Dallas and the Giants, a game with just massive consequences. Basically, the winner puts themselves in a position to win the division if Washington falls at night against Philadelphia, which, by the way, NFL, what are you doing? You put the it doesn't matter. I don't even know what to think about the Dallas Cowboys right now. I don't know what to think about Daniel Jones. Who is he capable of running or not? Like the entire week is a hot mess. This game has consequences, but feels like the hottest of hot messes because it has consequences. Six win division winner? Is that what's possible here? Awesome. Great job.
And then you look at the AFC and every team's 10-5.
It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable how bad the NFC is. Yeah. I heard a take the other day that was the NFC West is actually really bad, but the rest of the NFC is so bad we just don't notice. Everyone talks about the NFC West being like the best division in football. It's like, no, get the hell out of here. Yeah. 2.5 to 3 point spread, depending on where you're going. 45 point total. The Cowboys are favored in this one. Mm-hmm. That's a complete flip from where we were on the consensus open line, where it was Giants favored by 3.5 pretty much everywhere. Can Daniel Jones get it done? I like a lot of the things that the Giants have shown. The Cowboys are a pretty known entity at this point. They're going to put up some points. They're not going to stop anybody. Comes down to Daniel Jones. You're our running quarterback expert. What do you think? Can he run?
I don't want any part of Daniel Jones right now, personally. I think that, like, we were just talking about the Ravens, and it's probably different because there's no Dak Prescott, but like the Cowboys were kind of like that darling going into this year. Everyone was betting them and just getting absolutely destroyed, including myself. And the tilt space guys were just getting wrecked by the Cowboys. Like, they started the season 0-8 against the spread, which was a joke. But like, quietly, like, this Cowboys team's playing really well. Like, I mean, they've won 7 straight games in this series alone, 6-1 against the spread in those games. So Dallas has dominated the Giants, but they've been playing really well. I mean, this game has implications. Like, it's kind of nice, I guess, in some ways, for Washington at least, because they know that the Cowboys and Giants game will be decided by the time they play. So yeah, we might get like a primetime Washington game where they already know they're in. So that seems kind of bad. But I think that Dalton's actually looked pretty good recently. So I definitely want to be on the Cowboys side of this. I don't think that Danny Dimes looks right, I guess, is the moral of the story.
Yeah. Well, right now, 83% of the spread bets are on the Cowboys. Again, they're always a super public team, so you have to take some of that with a grain of salt. And there's a reason to bet the Cowboys this week other than you're a degenerate. So it's going to be always a little bit high. But I think there's something to be said for the fact that this line has flipped so much that we've seen a touchdown flip. And listen, it speaks to how bad these teams are that Danny Dimes is completely unreliable going into this week. And yet at the same time, they're only giving him a field goal and a hook. Like that's really everything you need to know about the NFC East in a nutshell, that they can't even trust the Dallas Cowboys to beat the New York Giants by more than a field goal. That's just ridiculous. So hopefully Danny Dimes gets healthy. Hopefully we have an interesting game, but I'm staying as far away from this as possible. I mean, if anything, if I had to make a play on it, gun to my head, I'd take the over on 45 just because I think Dallas can put up points. And maybe that's one-sided on the 45. And, the Giants only get 2 touchdowns there, but I can see a situation where Dallas puts 30 on the board, even against a Giants defense, which I think has been playing better as of late. Arizona and the Rams is the hottest mess of them all. Jared Goff has a broken thumb, so he's not going to play. And some guy named John Wolford, who went to Wake Forest, which I didn't know. I watch a lot of college football. I had no idea about that, though. I would like to say that John Wolford does sound like a person who went to Wake Forest, and he has this kind of hair going on right now. So I can imagine he was a big hit on campus. Might be going up against former Winnipeg Blue Bomber Chris Streveler. Is someone pronouncing that right? Streveler?
No idea. You're talking to the wrong guy if you're looking for someone to pronounce a name correctly. The people in the chat will let you know I'm probably the worst at that exists in this world.
This is going to be the Cardinals quarterback. You don't know how to pronounce it.
Yeah, I guess that's where we're at on this game right now. Like, I don't even think there's really much to say about this game overall. It's just such a hot mess. I can't even fathom putting American dollars on either side because I have no idea what's going to happen.
What about great Canadian dollars for blitzbet.eu?
That I might consider because those are worth much less than my U.S. dollars.
Yeah, well, not for long, my friend. Inflation's a bitch.
This is true.
Let's go with the Raiders and the Broncos then. Both of these teams are out of it as well, so we get to just watch AFC West battle between two bad teams. There's a 51 point total. 51 point total on this game at a certain book. I don't know, man. We're always big on late divisional matchups. Go with the under. Like, just go with the under. Anytime it's in the 50s and it's a late divisional matchup, my gut says go with the under. Then again, I've watched both of these defenses play football. It's very hard for me to take the under with either of them. Can I interest you in an overplay on 51? Can I interest you on Denver covering 2.5?
Man, this game's scary. So it's like we talked about the Falcons having a lot of variance, but like Derek Carr and Drew Lock, like at times this year, both of them have looked really good. And at times this year, both of these guys look like they shouldn't even be in the league. Like this Raiders team, we were talking about as being one of the better, at least most efficient offenses at times during this year, but they've just absolutely tanked. Like since week 11, the Raiders are 1-4 straight up and against the spread. Like tough way to end their season. This Broncos team on defense is an absolute disaster. I'm not a big Vic Fangio guy overall, so it's
No.
basically like this coaching matchup is something to behold. So I don't know. I could see the Broncos focusing on the run a little bit in this game, and maybe just there's a little bit of Derek Carr on the other side. But I think the total, if anything, seems high in this one.
Yeah.
I get that they're both bad teams, but I don't know if I trust either of these offenses.
All right, we're going to go with the tried and true. We're going to take an under on a late divisional game. I'll say this. This is what always happens with the Raiders. This is a John Gruden team to a T. He doesn't have a second kind of smoke, man. They're just going to run Josh Jacobs up the middle. They're going to hope that Darren Waller gets a good one-on-one matchup. They don't have anything else. And by the time you get to week 12, everyone has enough tape on you to know that you don't have anything else. And when your defense sucks and you don't have anything else on offense, you're going to get your ass kicked late in the season. It's all about adjustments. John Gruden doesn't adjust. He has issues adjusting from the first to the second half. What do you think he was going to do from the first half of a season to the second half? He has to pull out a whole other barrel of monkeys, much less just finding one monkey for later in a game. It's I'm going to take the under on this one. I'm going to take Denver to outright win. I'm going to take Denver money line if you're getting me 2.5, because why the hell not? Seattle is going to go for it. They're going to go for the 1 seed. That is something that we can say. Now, do they hold on to that if CJ Beathard somehow finds a way to get the 49ers up 14-0? Probably not. But ultimately, they still see a path to the number 1 seed in the NFC, and they say that they're going to play for it. And right now they are 5.5. I'm seeing 6 in some places, point favorites over the 49ers, who are coming off of a win at Arizona, which was a garbage football game. Just there's been a lot of tire fires. That was a trash fire. 46-point total on this one. It's in Glendale, Arizona. Do you think Seattle gets it done? I'm of the mindset that Seattle not just gets it done, but they get it done with ease. What do you think, Joe?
Yeah, I didn't really prepare for this game because you basically give all the hate towards the 49ers. I don't really even need to do that.
It's been working out for me.
Yeah, so I guess I was just kind of looking at it like the Seahawks have been terrible on the road, but this is a road matchup, I guess, in Arizona.
Yeah.
Maybe it's road for both teams. So it's, I don't know, maybe
it's
you throw that out.
It's not home for them, let's put it that way.
Yeah, but I guess like we talk about how the Rams have dominated the Seahawks, at least historically. It is the other direction for the 49ers. Like the Seahawks have absolutely dominated them 11-2 straight up in their last 13 against San Francisco. And that dates back to at least the last couple of years where they've been pretty strong, at least on defense. Yeah. So 13-4-1 against the spread in their past 18 games against the 49ers. I don't necessarily love those like team by team against the spread trends, but I think that this one in particular makes some sense. I think I'm on the Seahawks here. At least they have something to play for. I don't know. The 49ers are bad. Kittle's on the cover though, so talk about Kittle.
Well, Kittle is awesome, and he has CJ Beathard throwing him the ball. They're old college teammates at Iowa, so they got a little bit of something going, which is to say that the 49ers have a little bit of something. Here are the things that I'm concerned about. No Brandon Ayuk for the 49ers, and Ayuk has been absolutely awesome for them this season, but he busted up his ankle. They're not going to have Trent Williams at left tackle. That's huge. CJ Beathard's entire career has been defined by just getting pummeled into the ground. He holds onto the ball for way too long. He has a good arm. He just doesn't know what to do with it because he stands back there like a statue and then gets, tattooed by, 4 or 5 defensive linemen at the same time, even with a good offensive line. The 49ers will not have that. I mean, they'll just not have that straight up. I don't even know what they're doing at left tackle this week. So that alone gives me confidence that a Seattle defense that's showing me a little bit of a spark, showing me a little bit of something, and that Jamal Adams kind of finally figured out what it is he's supposed to be doing inside that operation and has a little bit of a pass rush going. I think that they'll be able to bring the juice on that end. And if the Seahawks defense can bring the juice, it doesn't matter what the 49ers do because their offense is going to be able to get points, even against the 49ers defense, which is playing out of its mind. But ultimately, I think left it all out on the field against Arizona last week. I just have a hard time seeing the 49ers, who have been away from home for more than a month, didn't get to see their families or anything at Christmas. Just like the whole thing is just like, let's just go home. Get us on that plane as fast as possible. And Seattle wants to run the ball. Cool. That gets us out of here faster. Let them score a couple touchdowns. Let's get the hell out of here. I can see the Niners rolling over in this one fairly early and no one really holding it against them given everything that's gone down, whereas the Seahawks will gladly take that victory. So I'm going to take Seattle. I'm going to take the points. And I don't know what I'm going to do with the total, but yeah, maybe I'll take the over on that one too. I just think Seattle absolutely rolls in this game. And you know what? Maybe the Niners make it interesting for a quarter or two and then just say screw it. So
and we're gonna have to like check the tape on like all of these shows. I don't know if you back the Niners 1 week all season. I'm not kidding.
Yeah, and again, it has worked out for me pretty well, all things
Yep.
considered. There have been a lot of weeks where I've been like, "Hey, man, yeah, I wouldn't bet on this one. This one's a little too hot to trot." But more often than not, it has worked out for me because when they're bad, they're really bad.
Yeah,
And,
outside of your Jordan Reed 3 touchdowns call, like there hasn't been a lot of love.
It was a 2 touchdown.
Wasn't it
call.
3?
No, it was 2. It was 2. It was 2. And to be fair, the next week he did have 2. So
yeah, fair enough. You're a week early, man. That's the way she goes.
That's the curse of my life. Chargers at Kansas City. We don't know who Kansas City's quarterback's going to be. It could be Chad Henne, who is not Patrick Mahomes. And so the lines on this one are all over the board. I guess right now we can say Chargers favored by 3.5. Do you have any thoughts on Chad Henne leading the Kansas City Charge? They have the number 1 seed locked up. Nothing they can do to screw it up. I'd imagine that this is a super rest game for them. And honestly, I'd be taking the Chargers minus 3.5 with ease, unless we think there's like a Matt Flynn situation afoot.
No, I like the Chargers. I think this is like kind of an under the radar game for fantasy as well, especially if we end up getting the Chiefs with a lot of backups back there against against the Chargers team that like has looked pretty good at times, but they just find a way to lose every single close game. So I think better times ahead for Justin Herbert and the rest of this offense. Maybe we end up seeing a couple of those guys out at times. I don't know if they're really like, what's the point of running Austin Eckler 20 times into the line in this game? Probably not. Like he's battling through that injury. Like he's a part of their future, all that stuff. So maybe an under in this game, which feels odd. But yeah, I would imagine that the Chiefs are going to do the smart thing and rest those guys. But I guess we talked about this earlier, but a team that has a bye, resting their guys in week 17, like 2 weeks off is not great either, right? So maybe they come in, it's like a preseason game. They come in, Patrick Mahomes marches down the field twice, scores, gets out of there. I could see that happening, but I don't know. It's kind of a tough position at times for these teams that have nothing to play for at all and know that they're going to have a lot at stake in 2 weeks from now. So it's kind of interesting.
Adding into that is that the Chiefs haven't covered in how long?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that they may be pushed against the Saints. I saw it at 3. I think they won by 3. I'm out. I'm kind of out on Kansas City in general. Like I just don't know why I would expect them to just flip the switch and suddenly start, whooping teams up come playoff time. I don't like where their momentum is. So maybe this is a game where they just have to like absolutely go out and smack somebody. And do it for a half and call it. Maybe they don't end up covering anyway, but just go out and smack somebody for a half and play full Chiefs. If they can do that, maybe I buy back in. But right now, I'm kind of out on Kansas City in general. I'm definitely not betting on them. And I don't mind. Listen, you have a coach with Anthony Lynn who is definitely on the hot seat. And that can go one of 2 ways, which makes it very trepidatious for anybody trying to bet on it. He could get all those guys rallying around him, or they could roll over in the most elaborate way possible. I've seen it happen in person. It's even more incredible in person than it is on television. When the New York Giants wanted Ben McAdoo gone, they wanted him so far away from that team. And every single time a guy was trying to go for a tackle, he took the wrong route. Every time. And you could just tell there was there were decisions on, I'm going to just go at the wrong angle. Everyone's trigonometry was way off. That could be this situation. I don't think it is, though. Given how they've played the last couple of weeks, I just don't think that they'll do it. I think that they'll probably come out with more of a spark and that they'll try to save his job. And they'll probably lose anyway, but, whatever. They'll at least try to save his job. But I think get your money away from this. And you mentioned the under. 44 points on an under for a Chiefs-Chargers game.
Man.
Makes it.
That's what I'm saying. It's priced in already, so maybe it's just a stay away. And can you imagine though, like the road in like the AFC we know is a lot tougher. But can you imagine like 2 weeks off for the Chiefs or the core members of the Chiefs, and then they get like the Ravens or something like that? Like it's tough, man. Like it's not this amazing spot by any means. Like that's I guess why if you're looking at futures, like some of these NFC teams, like take a flyer. Like these teams that get to the Super Bowl from the AFC are going to be banged up. Like there is some heavy teams on that side as well, like Derrick Henry. Like, dude, it's going to be really exciting to watch. But man, I feel bad for just how lopsided the division or the conferences are this year.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that. New Orleans is going to go for it as well. And right now they're 7-point favorites, 6.5-point favorites, depending on where you look, over Carolina. 47.5-point total. I mean, if the Saints are going to go for it, and they probably should, if for no other reason than to continue to get momentum going for the playoffs, where they could be really interesting. I mean, I think a lot of people are in on the Saints in general in the NFC, and for good reason. They have a good defense, and if that offense clicks, things can happen. This would be a good game to just kind of smack Carolina around. Easier said than done, of course. How do you feel about a 6.5-point spread and a 47.5-point total, which, by the way, has dropped down more than a field goal since the opening line?
This one's kind of straightforward, I think. Like, the Saints team, like we talked about them as being like one of the favorites earlier in the year. They stumbled a little bit, but they made it through a Drew Brees injury relatively unscathed, and now they're playing for the number one seed. Yeah, but now they're playing for the number one seed in a conference that's not very good, right? So where they only have to win a couple games to get to the dance. Like, I think the Saints come out here and make a hashtag statement here. There's not much to play for the Panthers, right? So I guess as bad as Drew Brees has looked, he's gutting through this injury. It looks like he's clearly not right. But in this one, I think that, like, the Saints, they're good enough. They have enough skill position players that are just that much better than the Panthers. I think they roll here. So I mean, I guess I expected this one to be closer to a double-digit spread than it's sitting at currently.
Well, then take those points. My concern is always teams going really hard so that they can get a bye week that they might not actually get.
Sure.
And like having to walk that fine line is tricky. Now, as that pertains to the spread, I don't even know. Like, it's just, this is too uncomfortable a number for me in general. I hate 6.5, 7-point spreads. I just hate them. I just don't like them.
So timing wise, the Packers would need to lose, right? And the Seahawks would have to win. Are both of those games at 4 p.m.? So it's going to be happening as this game is happening, correct?
All of these games are the 425.
Okay.
Slate.
So that's a little bit, I guess, concerning because so like if they're watching and they see that the Packers are up big or the Seahawks are like, then they maybe it doesn't matter at that point. So that's the weird wrinkles of this week, man. Because like you can feel that good about the Saints, but there's still there's nuance outside of, hey, the Saints are playing for the number one seed. Like, it's happening at the same time. Like, it could easily be a first half and out.
I'll say this: it's going to make red zone, the final red zone window of the year, really interesting
or terrible,
really fun. Oh, it's going to be it could be absolutely. That's fair. I'll give you that.
I hate this week for DFS, man. I know a lot of people like it because there's some sort of edge in news and that stuff, but this is my least favorite week of the year to play DFS because it's, number one, you're starting out a new calendar year, which is never great from a tax perspective. Right. You don't really want to start in a hole. You know what I mean? Right. I wish this week happened a week before. Because then you just fire and you don't care. It doesn't matter. Like, if you're having a winning season, you just fire. It's fine. It's going to go to the government or whatever. You win. Like, it's just, I don't think it's a good DFS week in general. Like, this is a week that, like, I'll say this on every show. I'm not scared to say it. I scale back on week 17 every single year because I just don't think there's a huge edge in it. If you think there is, great. I'm not there with you.
More power to you. Yeah. That's so funny. You should maybe just turn week 17 into like Joe Holka teaches accounting. Every year.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not a financial advisor or a CPA, but fire really hard until the new year if you've been winning.
Yeah, that's spot on.
And only on Stephon Diggs.
Yeah, amen. Tennessee and Houston is a game that I guess has to happen. Is there any ramifications here for Tennessee? Can they do anything? Or are they just kind of locked in there?
Yeah,
it feels to me like they're just locked in.
I think they are. I'm trying to look through here because, I mean, like, my notes are a complete disaster for some of these.
It's wild. You sent them to me, and I appreciate it, but it is pretty wild thinking about all of the permutations of this bad boy.
The Titans can still wrap up the AFC South. What? I believe.
Oh boy, yeah. I just read the Colts one. This is. You know what? Credit to the AFC South. It remains a mystery to all of us.
Yeah.
Like,
I think there's
conflicting
things in my notes here, which is making it not great.
That's where I'm at.
Yeah, but I mean, it is a 4 p.m. game, so maybe there's I guess another one of those spots where we have to figure out still what's happening in some of these other games, right? So I'm going to try and find that.
The Titans can win the division with the Colts loss.
Okay,
which is happening concurrently with their game against the Texans, who, by the way, the Texans rolled over. Oh my God, that was an elite tank job.
Mm-hmm.
Which, by the way, they don't even have their first round pick. So what the hell do they care?
Yeah.
Not that players tank, organizations do, but that's a nice kick. Maybe the players are trying to kick the organization for trading away that first round pick. Nevertheless, the Titans have the tiebreaker over the Colts. This is according to you, by the way.
So they control their own destiny here. Is kind of what
Titans win.
So that's great.
They win the AFC South.
Perfect.
That is what I'm learning here.
Derrick Henry. Why can't I talk today? What is wrong with me? Derrick Henry for 300 yards. I guess secure the AFC South. That's pretty much what we're going with here.
Here's the fun part: 56.5 point total in this game. I'm just taking the under on the principle of you take the unders in late season divisional games, even AFC South ones, which is barely a division. I'm just taking the under on 56.
The Texans are bad. The Texans are bad.
They're so bad. 7.5 point spread. Stay away from it. Take the under.
Yeah.
And let's talk about Green Bay and Chicago, a game. Ooh, this is everything I've ever wanted. Green Bay and Chicago with a lot on the line. Week 17. I think it's happened once before in my entire adult life. I'm not even a Bears fan. Just as someone growing up in Chicago, this warms my soul. And I know it's gonna be nasty in Chicago too. It's gonna be great. 50.5 point total. The Packers are favored by 5.5 over Mitchell Trubisky, the 9 plays of the Kyle Shanahan offense that they now run, and the Chicago Bears. I'm in on the Bears. I'm riding the Bears, but I am emotionally just tied to Chicago winning this game. Don't know why. Just want to see my people happy. That's all I want to see.
Yeah, I guess let the record show that when these teams first faced each other this year, I was all over the under, and the game was 41-25. So Aaron Rodgers does not care about your fantasy teams or about your under bets. So, very interesting overall. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers playing some of the best football of his entire career, to be completely honest.
Is he the favorite? Is he the MVP favorite now?
I think he may have passed Mahomes, which is crazy to say. So, I think maybe like that, like these last 2 weeks, like he is literally like not even interested in like doing anything but throwing around the goal line right now. So like if you had Devontae Adams, so I saw some team like last night is basically victory lap night in fantasy football. Right. So everyone posts their screenshots of their season long teams. Like I saw some teams out there that had Kamara, Diggs, and Adams in the finals. So it's just like, it's not even a prayer. It's just over, right? So one of my good buddies that I played hockey with in Canada messaged me. He was like, hey man, thanks for all the advice this year, but I got absolutely trucked. Wasn't even close. And he was playing those 3 guys, right? So,
oh my God.
I guess the moral of that story is I saw the tweet from actually Scott Barrett, friend of the show, of the top like 20 week 16 performances and PPR. We basically this week had like 4 break into that top 20 all time. So like some huge games from week 16 in fantasy football championship. So fun week, not a fun week to be against the Kamara crew and all these and Stephon Diggs, of course.
Yeah, man, that was I wild. And frankly, we're going to get some crazy nonsense like that in week 17. I don't know if we'll get that much crazy nonsense. That was next level crazy nonsense, but we'll get some crazy nonsense in week 17 like that. Do you have a play at all? Do you have a play on Bears and Packers? Because I'm not thinking rationally here.
I'll take the Packers. This Mitchell Trubisky thing needs to stop. I get it. He's played pretty well, but this is
never going to stop.
I'm not ready to get on board. Yeah.
Revolution.
He's buying himself another year. He might get another contract. He might get paid.
Matt Nagy is going to get a whole other year, and Mitchell Trubisky is going to sign like a 3-year, $60 million deal. And they run 9 plays out of the Gary Kubiak playbook and just give it to David Montgomery. They're just like, hey, you know what these other teams are doing with play action? It makes Baker Mayfield and Jimmy Garoppolo look good. Maybe it will work for Mitch Trubisky. And guess what? It does, which kind of ruined it because I was always big on Mitch Trubisky going to the 49ers and somehow having a revival, Jeff Garcia, like second half of his career. Jacksonville and Indianapolis. Indianapolis needs to win. They are 14-point favorites. The Jags have the number 1 seed locked up. They can play hard again. I'm not sure if they have anything to give us. 50-point total. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Shout out to the Jaguars for winning the race to the number 1 pick that Adam Gase just wanted no part of for some reason. So pretty weird spot just because, they could play hard, but they're also really bad. And the Colts are really good. So, I don't know. What's interesting is, again, we talk about these records. Indy could literally finish 11-5 and miss the playoffs. Like that's one of the craziest things I've ever seen. So
it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know. I would imagine that.
Meanwhile, a 6-10 team can win the NFC East.
Yeah, I don't know. It's weird. Maybe we need to revisit this whole thing. But huge spread, so I don't know. I kind of just want to be away from this one.
I want to just give a little bit more props to the Jaguars here.
Okay.
They won their first week and have not won since. I mean, that is next level tanking.
It's impressive. I mean, you love to see it.
Win a game, get everybody off your back, get everyone excited for a week, and then just fade away. That's just beautiful work there by everybody involved. And you know what? Bookend it. Win at the front, win at the end. Why not? Let's have some fun with it. Final game, Washington and Philadelphia. Cannot believe that this game has ramifications. Taylor Heineke is likely to start at quarterback for the Washington football team if Alex Smith can't go. And who the hell knows? They already got rid of Dwayne Haskins. And hot damn. The Washington football team is favored by 1.5. Oh, it's now Alex Smith. The news has come through. It's Alex Smith. Mm-hmm. Washington is favored by 1.5, 43-point total. I don't know. I can see an over here with Jalen Hurts. I don't. What do you think about what Hurts has done? Because it doesn't seem like they're going to give Carson Wentz his job back, even though Hurts hasn't been like spectacular outside of one game. What do you make of what's going on in Philadelphia? Because who the hell knows what's going on in Washington?
Yeah, I think that the one thing about these running quarterbacks or these mobile quarterbacks is there's a difference between being like a true like difference maker on the ground and just being like mobile, right? So like we got these huge guys like Josh Allen who are just freak athletes. They can move so well and they can run at the same time. So then you see these other guys like Dwayne Haskins going in the first round, and he just looked terrible from the start. So I don't understand a team that has like potential playoff hopes. Like they're just like he was that bad to where they're just willing to run out Taylor Heineke. I mean, at times this week we thought that was going to happen. So I don't know, man. This defense is legit for sure. But it's one of those ones that like I hope that we have this game and it actually matters, because it's going to be a really sad way to end the season if we already know, I guess, the playoff implications of this one after 4 p.m. So.
Yeah, it'd be a bad start to 2021 if this is football night in America.
Yeah.
With a game that doesn't matter. Can they flex it into the 425 spot if the game doesn't matter?
Yeah.
If it's looking like I mean, what? The Cowboys are going when? They got to be going earlier, right? Like that's got to be
that's
the
a one. Game. Yeah, let me see.
Yeah, it's a 1 o'clock game.
Yep.
Just tell these guys, hey man, this game doesn't matter. You get to play about 3 hours earlier. No one wants to see this crap on national TV. We're going to do a rerun of Frosty the Snowman or something. Like that's the only way. We'll pretend as if New Orleans and Carolina didn't happen. We'll do it on tape delay. Mm-hmm. Like they just have to do something to prevent us from having to watch this game that doesn't matter. Or, maybe it could. It will matter ultimately. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure that there's no circumstance in which Washington can win by losing. Am I wrong on that?
I think you're right, but no Terry McLaurin either. So it's like it's one of those like this offense, like it's going to be pretty hard. But I mean, it is the Eagles, and I don't know, man. I hate Week 17. This game sucks.
This didn't suck. I had a good time.
Yeah.
When are you doing shows?
So Mondays, Wednesdays, 3 p.m. Eastern time. No Thursday show this week. Obviously, no Thursday night football. So probably going to do a solo video, more of a deep dive. Tomorrow, get it up on the channel, so keep an eye out for that. We'll also have the normal schedule on Sunday. My show starts at 9 a.m. Eastern time on my channel, then the Line Movement show at 11 a.m. on this channel, and then, of course, the Tilt Space at 6:30. Interesting, Peter's not playing tournaments this week. He's only playing cash games, so I have no idea why. So, yeah, that's what we had to look forward to, basically.
Should be fun. The dive comes out on Friday. We'll talk on Sunday morning. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Happy New Year.